the emerald crown of Eldoria. In the heart of the mystical forests of Eldoria, where ancient oaks whispered secrets of old, the elves had lived in harmony with nature for millennia. This was a land where time seemed to flow differently, governed not by the sun or the moon, but by the eternal magic that suffused every leaf and stone. However, even in such a place, change was inevitable. Darkness crept in slowly, a creeping cold that wilted flowers and dimmed the lights of the fireflies. The elders spoke of an age when Eldoria was vibrant, alive with the luminescence of pure magic. The source of this magic was the Emerald Crown, a sacred artifact made from the first emerald ever formed on Earth, born from the heart of the forest itself. Legend held that the crown was not merely a symbol of power, but a conduit for the very life force of Eldoria. Yet the crown had been lost to time and folly, stolen away by shadows that feared the light it cast. With its disappearance, the balance of nature had begun to falter, the magic to wane. Now the once bountiful lands were fading, the magic that sustained them dwindling like the last gleams of twilight. Eowyn, a young elf with eyes as clear as spring water, lived on the fringes of the great Eldorian forest. Her life had been one of simple pleasures, tending to her garden, learning the languages of the birds, and listening to the tales of the old. But on the night of the silver moon, something extraordinary happened that changed the course of her destiny. That night, as silver light streamed through her window, Elwyn's dreams were visited by the spirit of the forest. It was an ethereal presence, manifesting as a voice rustling through the leaves, whispering not in words but in feelings and visions. The spirit spoke of the emerald crown, its importance, and Eowyn's role in its recovery. "You, child of the forest," the voice murmured, a breeze stirring the curtains of her room. "You are chosen to return what was taken. Seek the crown, restore the balance, and bring back harmony to our fading world." When she awoke, Eowyn found a single silver leaf lying beside her pillow, a leaf that glimmered with an unnatural light, not cast by any earthly source. This was her sign, the proof that her dream was more than just a figment of her imagination. Trembling with a mix of anticipation and fear, Eowyn prepared to meet with the elders at dawn. She knew the journey ahead would be perilous, fraught with challenges both physical and spiritual. Yet the conviction that her dream had been a true calling from the forest itself gave her the courage to face what lay ahead. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of pink and gold, Eowyn stepped out of her humble home, the silver leaf secured in her pocket. Today she would present this sign to the elders, and today would mark the beginning of her quest to find the lost emerald crown and restore the fading magic of Eldoria. As the first light of dawn streaked across the sky, Eowyn made her way to the council glade, a sacred clearing where the oldest trees arched towards each other, their branches intertwined as if in perpetual conversation. Here the elders of Eldoria convened, guardians of ancient wisdom and lore. Eowyn's heart beat with a nervous excitement today. She would set the course of her future. When she arrived, the elders were already assembled, their ageless eyes reflecting the serene light of the morning. At the center stood Elrin, the High Elder, whose hair shimmered with strands of silver like moonlight on water. He was the first to notice her approach, his gaze piercing yet not unkind. Eowyn, child of the northern woods, you come at an auspicious time. Elrin's voice was deep, resonating with the power of the old magic. What brings you to us this morning? Eowyn stepped forward, her hand clutching the silver leaf. With a respectful bow, she presented the leaf to the council. Last night under the silver moon, the spirit of the forest visited my dreams. It spoke of the emerald crown and the restoration it can bring to Eldoria, this silver leaf. She continued, her voice steady despite the fluttering of her heart, was left as a sign of my calling. A murmur rippled through the circle of elders. Such a direct intervention by the spirit of the forest was rare, something none had experienced in their lifetimes. The leaf was passed from hand to hand, each elder examining the ethereal glow it retained. Finally, Elrin spoke again. This is indeed a sign, a manifestation of deep magic. It has been long since the forest has reached out so clearly, but the path you speak of is fraught with danger. Elwyn, are you prepared to face what lies beyond the safety of our woods? Eowyn's resolve did not waver. I am, she affirmed, her voice gaining strength. For the sake of our land and its fading magic, I will face whatever trials may come. The elders conferred among themselves in hushed tones, their conversation a whispering of leaves. After what seemed like an eternity, they turned back to Eowyn, their decision made. It is settled, declared Elrin. Eowyn of the northern woods, you are granted our blessing to seek the emerald crown. However, you shall not go unarmed into the unknown. From the folds of his robe, Elrin produced a staff, its wood old and gnarled, yet glowing with a soft inner light. This is Lightbringer, a staff imbued with the essence of the first dawn. It will guide you truly, glowing bright in the presence of truth and justice. Take it as your companion and protector on the roads ahead. Gratefully, Eowyn took the staff, feeling a warm surge of energy as her fingers wrapped around it. The wood hummed softly, as if acknowledging its new bearer. Thank you, elders. I will not fail you, nor the forest that has raised me, Elwyn vowed, her spirit buoyed by the trust and sacred power bestowed upon her. With Lightbringer in hand and the silver leaf secured in her pocket, Eowyn turned to leave the council glade. Her journey to recover the emerald crown and heal her fading world was just beginning. As she stepped beyond the familiar paths into uncharted territories, the real trials awaited, ready to test her courage, wisdom, and the strength of her heart. Elwyn ventured deeper into the heart of the Eldorian forests, where the trees grew so tall and dense that even at noon the light was dim, filtered into a perpetual twilight. The path she walked was seldom used, marked only by the ancient symbols carved into the tree trunks by her ancestors, guiding her steps into the unknown. The first trial came sooner than she expected. Elwin encountered a clearing enveloped in a thick, unnatural fog. As she stepped into the mist, the air grew cold, and the comforting light of Lightbringer dimmed. Voices whispered on the edge of hearing, each one trying to lure her off her guarded path. She remembered the elders' warning that the forest would test her resolve and her ability to discern truth from deceit. Holding Lightbringer before her, Elwin focused on the warmth of the staff, letting its presence anchor her reality. She recited a mantra of the Eldorian sages, "Truth shines even in darkness." As she spoke, Lightbringer's glow returned, piercing through the fog, revealing a narrow path strewn with thorns that the voices had tried to steer her away from. With renewed determination, Elwin navigated through the clearing, the staff's light guiding her until the fog lifted and she was on the other side, safe but shaken. It was a reminder of the deceptive dangers that lay in wait. Days turned into weeks as Aelwyn's journey continued. She faced other challenges: a river whose waters ran contrary to nature, flowing uphill, its currents strong and treacherous. Here, Aelwyn used her knowledge of the forest herbs to concoct a potion that calmed the waters long enough for her to cross. Another time, she met a creature of the woods, a trickster sprite named Glyn, who promised to lead her directly to the Emerald Crown in exchange for her staff. But Aelwyn, wise to the deceitful nature of sprites, challenged Glyn to a game of riddles instead. The sprite, unable to resist a challenge, agreed. Aelwyn's cleverness won out, and Glyn, defeated, pointed her towards the ancient stones of judgment without further mischief. Each challenge taught Aelwyn something new about herself and the world around her. She grew in wisdom and strength, her abilities as a guardian of Eldoria's magic blossoming. Lightbringer was always by her side, a constant source of comfort and guidance. Finally, after navigating through a labyrinth of ancient, whispering pines, Aelwyn arrived at the legendary Stones of Judgment. These massive stones, arranged in a mysterious circle, had stood for millennia, inscribed with runes that told of history and magic long forgotten. As Aelwyn approached the center of the circle, the air shimmered with a silent power. It was here that she would face the greatest trial yet, to unlock the riddle of the stones and discover the hidden location of the Emerald Crown. The stones awaited, their runes glowing faintly in anticipation of the rightful seeker who could decipher their secrets. Drawing a deep breath, Aelwyn stepped forward, Lightbringer in hand, ready to face whatever truths the Stones of Judgment would reveal. This was the moment her entire quest had led up to, and the answers she sought were finally within reach. Aelwyn stood before the Stones of Judgment, their ancient runes glowing under the touch of her staff, Lightbringer. Each stone was etched with intricate symbols, not just a language of words, but of the very essence of magic itself. The air around her hummed with a power that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the earth. As she approached the central stone, a deep voice resonated, not through the air but directly within her mind. It was the voice of the stones themselves, ageless and imbued with the wisdom of the ancients. Seeker of the crown, prove your worth. To find what is lost, answer first what binds the earth, yet reaches for the sky, enduring ages as eons pass by. Eowyn pondered the riddle, her gaze drifting upwards to the towering trees around her. They were as much a part of the forest as the stones, rooted deep within the earth, yet always stretching towards the heavens. Trees, she whispered, her voice a mix of awe and certainty. The answer is trees. The ground beneath her vibrated gently, an affirmation from the stones. True-hearted seeker, you have seen well. But another query remains to quell. What is that which gives breath, unseen, binds life to life, a bridge serene? This time Eowyn closed her eyes, taking a deep breath of the cool forest air, feeling it fill her lungs with life. The air, she responded confidently. It is the air that binds all life together, unseen but essential. Again the ground affirmed her answer, and the glow from the stones brightened, casting a warm light over the clearing. Well answered, wise one. Now the final test, the hardest yet, what guards the old, embraces the new, shields the truth, and reveals it too. Eowyn's mind raced. This riddle was more complex, its answer less obvious. She walked slowly around the circle, touching each stone with Lightbringer, feeling their ancient power course through her. Her eyes caught on the staff in her hands, the glow it cast, the way it seemed to protect and guide her. Her heart quickened as understanding dawned. The answer is light, Eowyn declared, holding up Lightbringer so its glow illuminated the runes on the stones. Light guards against the darkness, embraces growth, shields against deception, and reveals the truths hidden in shadows. The stones pulsed with a surge of energy, the ground shaking as the air itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Correctly answered, true seeker of the crown. Your wisdom and heart have led you down the path of truth. The emerald crown lies hidden in the forgotten caves, guarded by the shadows of the past, waiting for light to reclaim its place. As the voice faded, a map materialized in the air before Eowyn, glowing with the same light as the staff. It depicted the twisting paths of the forest, and a route marked clearly towards the northeast, the location of the forgotten caves. With a reverent nod to the stones of judgment, Eowyn took a moment to commit the map to memory before it faded away. Her journey was not yet over. The final piece of her quest lay ahead. With Lightbringer guiding her steps, she set out towards the forgotten caves, her resolve strengthened by the trials she had overcome and the final challenge that awaited. Her path led her deeper into parts of Eldoria that few had ever tread, where the shadows lingered longer and the whispers of the past echoed among the ancient trees. Eowyn felt the weight of her responsibility, knowing that the fate of her world might soon rest upon her shoulders. Eowyn's journey through the dense, whispering woods towards the forgotten caves was marked by a silence more profound than any she had encountered before. The deeper into the forest she ventured, the less she heard the usual rustling of leaves or the cheerful chirps of birds. Instead, there was a stillness, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something momentous to happen. The forgotten caves, when she finally reached them, appeared as a gaping maw in the side of a rugged hill, vines draping over its edges like curtains concealing ancient secrets. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of moss and earth long undisturbed. Lightbringer's glow, which had been a constant companion and protector on her journey, now cast eerie shadows against the jagged walls as Eowyn stepped cautiously inside. The caves were labyrinthine, with twisting passages that branched off in multiple directions. Eowyn relied on Lightbringer, not just for illumination but also for guidance, as the staff's glow seemed to pulse stronger down one path over the others. She followed these cues, trusting in the ancient magic imbued within the staff. As she delved deeper into the cave, a new presence made itself known. A shadow seemed to detach itself from the darkness ahead, coalescing into the form of an elf, but one whose features were twisted by a darkness that seemed both external and internal. His eyes, once perhaps as clear as any elf's, now shimmered with a malicious light. Maelon Eowyn breathed, recognizing the elf from the tales whispered among her people. He had been a guardian of the Emerald Crown centuries ago, but had fallen prey to its power, becoming corrupted, his spirit bound to the caves as both its prisoner and its protector. Maelon, she repeated, this time more firmly. I mean no harm. I have come to restore the crown and heal our land. Maelon's laugh was like the scraping of stone on stone. Naive child, he hissed. You think yourself pure enough to touch the crown? It will consume you as it did me. Despite his threatening presence, Eowyn stood her ground. I am not here to be consumed by power, but to restore it to its rightful place. The forest itself has guided me here. Maelon moved closer, and the darkness around him deepened. Then you shall pass through me, he declared, and with those words the cave seemed to respond, shadows stretching towards Eowyn like dark fingers. Raising Lightbringer, Eowyn focused on the purity of her intent and the light of her staff. As Maelon launched towards her, the cave illuminated with a blinding light. The shadows recoiled, and Maelon's scream echoed through the stone corridors. When the light dimmed, Maelon was on his knees, the darkness seeping out of him like smoke. Eowyn approached cautiously. Maelon, let me help you. Let the crown go. For a moment it seemed as though the old guardian battled internally with his demons. Finally he nodded weakly, gesturing towards a deeper part of the cave. The crown, it is there, in the heart of the caves. Take it and end this curse. With a heavy heart, Eowyn moved past him, feeling the weight of his years of torment. She ventured into the heart of the cave, where the emerald crown lay on an ancient pedestal, its green glow pulsing like the heart of the forest. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward and lifted the crown. As her fingers touched the cool metal and the vibrant emerald, a surge of pure, uncorrupted magic flowed through her. It was as if the forest itself breathed a sigh of relief, the balance beginning to restore at the mere touch of a rightful guardian. Outside, the cave began to lighten as shafts of sunlight broke through the darkness. The path out was clear, and with the crown secure, Aelwyn knew her journey was nearing its end. It was time to return the crown to its rightful place, and with it, restore the harmony of Eldoria. With the emerald crown cradled carefully in her arms, Aelwyn retraced her steps through the labyrinthine caves, emerging into the light of day. The world outside seemed to have changed during her time within the dark. The air felt fresher, and even the sun shone more brightly. The forest, sensing the return of its heart, seemed to awaken, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves in a soft whisper of thanks. Aelwyn's journey back to the great shrine of Eldoria was swift and uneventful. The forest itself aided her passage, with ancient trees bending slightly to clear her path and animals guiding her steps. As she walked, the land seemed to heal with every step she took, flowers blooming in her footsteps, and streams clearing to crystal purity. Upon reaching the great shrine, a grand structure built around an ancient oak at the heart of Eldoria, the elders and her fellow elves gathered, drawn by the powerful magic of the crown's return. Their faces, filled with hope and wonder, turned towards her as she approached, the crown shining brilliantly in her hands. Elrin, the High Elder, stepped forward, his eyes wide with awe and deep gratitude. Aelwyn, you have done what many believed was beyond our reach. You have restored the emerald crown and with it the essence of our land. Aelwyn ascended the steps to the altar at the base of the ancient oak, the crown in her hands feeling both a burden and a blessing. She placed it gently upon the altar, where it seemed to meld with the wood, its green light expanding in waves throughout the forest. As soon as the crown touched the altar, a surge of magic rippled through the land. The trees grew taller, their leaves a richer shade of green, and the air filled with the vibrant energies of life. The fading magic of Eldoria, which had been ebbing like the last rays of sunset, now burst forth anew, as brilliant as the dawn. The elves around her began to sing, their voices harmonious and pure, a song of renewal that echoed through the forest and beyond. Aelwyn felt the magic coursing through her veins, her spirit lifted by the unity and joy of her people. Elrin approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. Aelwyn, you have not only restored our crown but also our hope. You shall be known as Aelwyn of the Emerald Light, guardian of the crown and protector of Eldoria. Tears of joy and relief welled in Aelwyn's eyes as she looked around at her people, their faces alight with a magic reborn. She knew her life would never be the same. She had found her purpose and her place within the heart of her world. In the years that followed, Eldoria flourished as it had in the days of old. The magic of the forest was strong and pure, its balance maintained by Aelwyn and the future guardians she would one day train. The story of her journey became a tale told to inspire and teach the young elves about the importance of balance, courage, and faith in the power of nature. Aelwyn spent her days tending to the great shrine and exploring exploring deeper into the mysteries of the magic that she had helped restore. Under her watch, the elves of Eldoria lived in harmony with the forest, their lives a testament to the power of unity and the sacred trust between them and the land they called home. As the sun set on a particularly beautiful day, Elwen stood by the great shrine, Lightbringer at her side, and looked out over the thriving land. A sense of peace filled her heart, for she knew that as long as the crown remained protected and the harmony of nature preserved, Eldoria would continue to be a beacon of light and life in the world. The last song of Erythian. In the verdant realms of Erythian, where the great elven city nested in the arms of ancient trees, there flowed a harmony so profound it was as if the earth itself sang with life. This city, sculpted from the living wood of the enchanted forest and graced with structures of flowing stone and crystal, resonated with a magic old as the world. Central to the culture of Erythian was the legend of the last song, composed by Immerse, the founding bard whose music still echoed through time. Her instrument, a lyre crafted from the heartwood of the oldest tree and strung with light captured from falling stars, possessed the rare power to command the elements themselves. This lyre, imbued with elemental magic, was not merely an instrument but a key to the balance of nature within the forest. The lyre was passed down through generations, its guardianship a revered duty. It came into the hands of Lyriel, a young elf with a rare gift for music that transcended mere performance. Her connection to the lyre was profound, as if the strings vibrated in tune with her very soul. Life in Erythian was a melody of joy and community, until a day came when a shadow fell across the city. The sky darkened as if smeared with soot, and a chill wind whispered threats among the leaves. The river Lyrian, lifeblood of the city, began to slow, its waters receding and growing murky, while plants withered as if starved of light. The elders of Erythian, keepers of ancient wisdom, gathered in the luminous hall, a chamber at the city's heart where light filtered through crystals in a spectrum of colors. Among them was Lyriel, her expression etched with concern as she clutched her lyre closely. The darkness that spreads is born of an ancient curse, declared Elder Miralis, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. It emanates from the dark wood, a place forbidden and forgotten. To confront this curse we must evoke the last song, a melody so potent it could cleanse the corruption. But the knowledge of the last song had been lost, its notes scattered to the winds of time. A murmur of despair circled the room, for without the song Erythian might never recover. Lyriel stepped forward, her resolve as clear as the notes that often flowed from her lyre. "I will retrieve the notes of the last song," she announced, her voice resonating with a determination that silenced the room. "The lyre and my heart will guide me." With the blessing of the elders, Lyriel prepared for her journey. Her first destination was the dwelling of the Oracle, a mystical seer living where the edges of Erythian blurred into the ominous shadows of the dark wood. The path was less traveled, shrouded in an ever-deepening gloom as the curse's influence grew stronger. The oracle's home was a cottage veiled in vines and mystery, the air around it thick with the scent of earth and old magic. The oracle, an elf of indeterminate age, blind yet possessing a sight beyond the visual, welcomed Liril with a knowing smile. "Ah, the bearer of Amara's lyre," the oracle murmured, her voice like a melody itself. "You seek the notes of the last song. They are hidden, bound to the very elements you wish to command earth, air, water, and fire." "How will I find these notes?" Liril asked, her fingers gently caressing the lyre's strings, which hummed softly in response. Each element guards its note within a trial. You must face these trials not with force, but with the harmony of your music, the oracle explained. Listen to the elements, play for them what they yearn to hear, and they will yield their secrets to you. Armed with this knowledge, Liril felt the weight of her task, yet also the thrill of a challenge that called to her very soul. She left the oracle's abode, her lyre slung across her back, stepping into the creeping mists that led towards her first trial. The quest for the last song was not just a journey across Erythian, it was a journey into the heart of the elements themselves. Liril's first destination lay to the north, where the wind whispered secrets through the branches of ancient trees. The caverns of echoes, known for their crystalline walls that carried even the softest murmur throughout their depths, housed the element of air. The wind was said to be capricious, and the spirits residing within loved to listen but rarely spoke. As Liril approached the caverns, the wind picked up, playing with her hair and tugging at her cloak as if testing her resolve. She stood at the entrance, her lyre cradled in her arms, and played a soft melody that mimicked the gentle breeze of an early morning. The notes floated into the caverns, and the wind seemed to still, listening. The response came as a chorus of echoes, a harmonious reply that guided Liril deeper into the caverns. She followed the sounds until she reached a chamber where the air swirled in a visible dance of currents. Here she felt the presence of the air spirits, their essence interwoven with the breezes that caressed her face. Liril played again, this time a melody that rose and fell with the rhythm of the wind itself. The music filled the chamber, resonating with the natural acoustics, and in return, the spirits gifted her with the first note of the last song, a sound as clear as the sky on a crisp dawn. Next, Liril traveled to the south, towards the volcanic fissures known as the Depths of Flame. Heat radiated from the cracked earth, and the air shimmered with the intensity of the fire that bubbled beneath the surface. Here, fire spirits danced within the molten rock, their forms flickering like flames in a hearth. Understanding the fiery nature of her audience, Liril played a melody that evoked the essence of a gentle rain, cooling and soothing. The music's cooling touch calmed the fervent spirits, who delighted in the contrast between their heat and the coolness of the rain evoked by her lyre. Grateful for the respite, the fire spirits offered Liril the second note, a vibrant sound that pulsed like the heart of a flame. It was warm and inviting, yet powerful in its intensity. To the west, Liril found the Basin of Tears, a secluded lake hidden beneath a canopy of weeping willows, whose leaves touched the tranquil waters. The water spirits who dwelled here were mournful, their sobs echoing across the still surface, lamenting lost magic and forgotten songs. Liril's melody here was a lullaby, soft and soothing, meant to comfort and renew. As she played, the lake's surface glimmered under the touch of moonlight, and the spirits' sorrow eased. In their gratitude they revealed the third note, fluid and serene, like water flowing over smooth pebbles. Finally, Liril ventured east to the Grove of Whispers, where the ancient trees stood guard over the earth element. Their roots dug deep into the soil, and their leaves rustled with the knowledge of ages. Here Liril played a symphony that combined all the elements she had learned: the freshness of air, the warmth of fire, and the serenity of water, intertwining these with the steadfastness of the earth. The trees listened, their rustling leaves applauding her understanding and harmony. Moved by her respect and unity of the elements, the spirits of the grove bestowed upon her the final note, a deep, resonant tone that echoed the strength and stability of the earth itself. With all four notes in her possession, Liril felt the power of the last song within her grasp. Each note was a key, and together they would unlock the song that could cleanse Erythian of its creeping darkness. Energized by her success and the elemental harmonies she carried, Liril prepared to face the heart of the Darkwood, where the ultimate challenge awaited: the confrontation with the source of the curse itself. With the four elemental notes secured, Liril's next destination was the heart of the Darkwood, the source of the curse that shrouded Erythian. The Darkwood was a place of foreboding shadows and twisted paths, where few elves dared to tread. It was said that the trees themselves watched over its secrets, and creatures of the shadow lurked among its thickets, guarding the dark magic within. Armed with her lyre and the newly acquired notes, Liril entered the Darkwood under a sky cloaked in heavy clouds. The air was thick with a silent tension, and even the usual sounds of wildlife were ominously absent. Every step she took seemed echoed by a whispering rustle, as if the forest itself was aware of her presence and intent. As she ventured deeper, the darkness grew palpable, pressing against her with an almost physical force. The path was unclear, the twisted branches and thick undergrowth obscuring her way. Liril paused, feeling the weight of isolation and the enormity of her task. It was here, in the suffocating silence, that she raised her lyre and played a chord made from the notes of the elements. The melody cut through the stillness, a beacon of light and harmony that pierced the veil of darkness. The music did more than illuminate her path. It stirred the ancient spirit that had succumbed to the darkness, a guardian once charged with protecting the balance of nature in Erythian, now twisted into a creature of despair and corruption. The spirit, drawn to the purity of Liril's song, emerged from the shadows, its form a swirling mass of dark energy and fragmented memories. Liril stood her ground, her heart pounding but her resolve firm. She spoke to the spirit, not with words but through her music, weaving a dialogue of melodies that spoke of healing and redemption. With each note she reached out to the spirit, reminding it of the beauty of Erythian, the rhythmic pulse of the river, the whisper of the wind, and the warmth of the sun. The spirit, conflicted and tormented, responded with a cacophony of dissonant sounds, reflecting its inner turmoil. But Liriel did not falter. She continued to play, her song growing more powerful, bolstered by the elemental notes. The air vibrated with the convergence of music and magic, the elements dancing around her, wind swirling, fire flickering, water rippling and earth trembling. Finally, the spirit began to harmonize with Liriel's melody, its form gradually becoming less chaotic, more coherent. The darkness receded like a tide, revealing the true form of the spirit, an ancient elf, his features weathered by centuries, but his eyes clear, shedding the corruption that had ensnared him. I remember the spirit whispered, his voice a mere echo of its former self. I was alien, guardian of the harmony. Your music, it has freed me. With the spirit's release, the curse lifting from the dark wood was almost tangible. Light filtered through the trees, and the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Alien, now at peace, gave Liriel his blessing and a final gift, a silver pendant shaped like a lyre, symbolizing unity and balance. With the dark wood cleansed and the spirit restored, Liriel knew her journey was nearing its end. She returned through the forest, the path now clear and bright, the sounds of life returning to the woods. Her heart was light, her mission complete, but she knew the last task lay ahead, the performance of the last song in the heart of Erythian, to fully dispel the shadows and restore the city's former glory. Upon her return to Erythian, Liriel found the city still under the shadow of the lingering curse, though now it was less oppressive, a sign of the weakening darkness. The citizens, sensing a shift in the air, gathered in the city's grand plaza, their faces etched with hope and anticipation. The elders stood at the forefront, near the ancient stone stage that served as the city's communal heart, where Liriel was to perform the last song. With her lyre in hand and the four elemental notes harmoniously united, Liriel ascended the stage. The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on the young bard who had ventured beyond the safety of their borders to restore their world. The elders nodded to her, their expressions a mix of reverence and gratitude. Liriel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her city's hopes resting upon her shoulders. She thought of her journey, the trials she had faced, the elemental spirits she had befriended, and the corrupted guardian she had healed. Each experience had imprinted upon her heart and deepened her connection to the world around her. With a gentle strum of her lyre, Liriel began to play. The first note, clear and sharp as the wind, filled the air, followed by the warm, vibrant pulse of the fire note. Then came the fluid, soothing wash of the water note, and finally the deep, resonant call of the earth note. Together, These sounds wove a complex tapestry of music that seemed to resonate not just in the plaza, but throughout the entire city. As she played, the elements themselves responded. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying with it the fresh scent of rain. Tiny flames danced along the edges of the stage in a harmless display of fiery beauty. Drops of water condensed from the air, sparkling like tiny jewels in the light, and the stone beneath her feet thrummed with a deep, grounding energy. The music swelled, growing in power and intensity. Lyriel's fingers moved with practiced grace, her whole being focused on the delivery of each note. The melody rose to a crescendo, filling every corner of Erythian with its purity and magic. Then, as the final note lingered in the air, a burst of light radiated from Lyriel, enveloping the city. The darkness that had clung to Erythian was swept away, expelled by the power of the last song. The sky cleared, revealing the vibrant blue that had been hidden for so long, and the river Lyran flowed once more with crystal clarity. The citizens of Erythian erupted into cheers, their voices a chorus of joy and relief. Flowers, long dormant, bloomed instantaneously, adding splashes of color to the cityscape. The curse was not only lifted but completely vanquished. Lyriel, exhausted but elated, lowered her lyre. The elders approached, their own eyes shimmering with unshed tears of joy. Elder Miralis spoke for them all, her voice carrying across the now jubilant crowd. Lyriel, daughter of Erythian, your courage and your music have saved us all. Today you have not just played a song, you have rewritten the destiny of our people. The festival that followed lasted for days, a celebration of light, music and life. Lyriel performed the last song many times, each performance a reminder of the journey she had undertaken and the unity she had fostered among the elements. Years passed and Lyriel's adventure became a legend in its own right, a story passed down through generations. She continued to play and teach, her life a melody that resonated with the same harmony that she had brought back to Erythian. The enchanted lyre was eventually passed to another young bard, chosen for her spirit and talent. Lyriel taught her everything she had learned, ensuring that the knowledge of the last song would never again be lost. Under Lyriel's guidance, Erythian remained a beacon of balance and harmony, a testament to the power of music and the enduring strength of a unified community. Her legacy, like her music, would echo through the ages, a timeless melody of hope and renewal. The Whispering Woods. In the heart of Eldoria, where ancient magic breathes through the forest and whispers in the leaves, there lies a place of wonder and mystery known as the Whispering Woods. These woods are old, older than the oldest elf, older than the cities carved from marble and stone, and steeped in the deep, enduring magic of the earth. Here the trees are more than just flora, they are custodians of history, witnesses to the eons as they unfolded. Among them stands the oldest and most revered Whisperroot. This colossal tree has roots that delve deep into the heart of the world and branches that scrape the heavens. Its bark is etched with the wrinkles of time, each line a story, each groove a secret. Whisperroot is said to hold the memories of the elven gods, the first age when divine beings walked openly among the mortals and shared their wisdom freely. It is the living archive of elven history, a sacred repository of divine mysteries that few know and even fewer seek. Fëlar was unlike other elves of his generation. While many were content with the tranquility of their ageless lives, Fëlar was driven by an insatiable curiosity about the ancient lore and the secrets that the world around him held. This curiosity often led him deep into the whispering woods, where he listened to the murmurs of the leaves and the tales of the wind. One crisp, moonlit night, driven by a dream he could scarcely remember upon waking, Fëlar ventured deeper into the woods than ever before. The air was cool, fragrant with the scent of pine and ancient earth, and the moonlight dappled through the dense canopy above, guiding his steps. As he wandered, drawn by an inexplicable pull, Fëlar stumbled upon a hidden grove. This place felt untouched by time, secluded from the rest of the world by thick brambles and a heavy, palpable silence that spoke of sacredness. At the center of this grove stood Whisperroot, massive and imposing, its presence overwhelming yet inviting. Feeling a mix of awe and reverence, Fëlar approached the ancient tree. He placed his hand gently against the rough bark, and instantly the air around him thrummed with energy. A voice, ancient and resonant, filled his mind, a voice like the rustling of leaves, yet clear and articulate. Fëlar, child of the forest Whisperroot, spoke, its tone both welcoming and grave. You have come seeking knowledge, driven by a destiny not yet fully understood. Listen well, for the secrets I hold are not granted lightly.
Compelled by the gravity of the moment, Fëlar listened as Whisperroot began to reveal the truths of the First Age, speaking of the time when elven gods mingled with elves, sharing their divine essence and knowledge. The tree spoke of lost magic, of powers forgotten by modern elves, and of ancient threats that lingered in the shadows, biding their time.
As the night deepened, Whisperroot shared with Fëlar a prophecy of old, one that foretold a looming threat that sought to erase the history of the elves and their gods, severing the deep spiritual connections that sustained the magic of Eldoria. This blight grows even now, spreading its shadow across the land, aiming to smother the roots I have so long protected, Whisperroot explained, its voice imbued with a sense of urgency. To thwart this darkness, you must rediscover the ancient wisdoms once imparted by the gods to our people, wisdoms that have been scattered and hidden, protected by trials and guardians. Determined to protect his heritage and the legacy of his people, Fëlar vowed to retrieve these wisdoms. Whisperroot, sensing the purity of his intent, bestowed upon him the first piece of ancient knowledge, a magical incantation that could unveil hidden truths. Armed with this incantation, and a resolve as sturdy as the oak, Fëlar set out from the grove with a new purpose. His journey to gather the remaining wisdoms needed to confront the growing blight would lead him through trials of courage, insight, and spirit, each step guided by the whispers of the ancients and the watchful eyes of the forest. As the first rays of dawn began to pierce the canopy of the whispering woods, Fëlar stepped back onto the well-trodden paths of Eldoria, his heart both heavy with the weight of his task and alight with the fire of adventure. The quest to save his people's history and indeed their very souls had begun. Fëlar's first destination in his quest for ancient wisdoms led him to the foot of the Elden Mountains, where the stone guardians resided. According to Whisperroot, these towering statues were not only protectors of the physical realm but also keepers of sacred knowledge. Erected in ages past by the elven gods themselves, the guardians were said to challenge those who approached with riddles steeped in the history and ethos of the elves. As Fëlar approached the guardians, the wind around him grew still, and the air filled with a tangible sense of anticipation. The nearest statue, a colossal figure carved from seamless granite, with features weathered yet noble, slowly stirred to life. Its deep, resonant voice echoed off the mountain walls.
Young elf, to pass beyond and claim the wisdom guarded by stone, answer me this: what force can bring the mightiest mountain to its knees?
Fëlar pondered the riddle, his mind racing through possibilities. Then, as a gentle breeze passed through, lifting the leaves in a soft rustling whisper, the answer came to him. "Time," he replied, his voice steady and clear. The stone guardian's eyes, carved of deep-set emerald, glinted with approval. "Correct, wise one. Time indeed wears all things down. Proceed with our blessing." With a rumble that shook the ground, the guardian's hands moved, revealing a hidden alcove behind it. Within lay a scroll, inscribed with elven runes that spoke of unity and strength, keys to overcoming adversity. With the first wisdom secured, Fëlar's journey took him next to the serene waters of the River of Reflection. It was said that this mystical river could show one's truest nature and deepest fears, reflecting not just the physical form but the soul itself. Upon reaching the riverbank, Fëlar found the waters calm and inviting. He knelt, touching the surface gently with his fingertips. The water rippled, and images began to form, scenes of past hardships and triumphs of the elven people, their struggles against darkness, and their celebrations of light. "The river tests your understanding and empathy," Whisperroot's words echoed in his mind. Watching the scenes unfold, Fëlar felt a deep connection to his ancestors' hopes and fears. When the visions finally stilled, he spoke into the silence. "Though the river shows many hardships, it also reflects the resilience and hope that carried our people through." In response, the river shimmered, and from its depths rose a crystal vial, filled with water that glowed with an internal light. This was the wisdom of resilience and hope, a reminder of the strength found in enduring optimism.
The final trial awaited Fëlar in the high peaks where the winds of ancestors howled through the ancient stones. Here, the spirits of the past communicated through the gusts and gales, telling their stories to those who would listen. As Fëlar climbed the rugged paths, the winds whipped around him, their howls mingling with whispers. He listened carefully, discerning the words from the wail of the wind. "Learn from us, child of the forest. Understand the language of the elements, for they are the foundation of all magic."
Drawing upon the wisdoms he had already gathered, Fëlar raised his voice to the wind, speaking in the ancient tongue taught to him by Whisperroot. I hear you, spirits of the past, and I seek harmony with all elements. The winds calmed, and from the very air before him, a scroll materialized, written in the swirling script of the wind. It contained the wisdom of balance and harmony, essential for any who would seek to mend what had been broken. With all three wisdoms collected unity and strength, resilience and hope, balance and harmony, Fela felt a new depth of understanding and power. Each wisdom intertwined, strengthening his resolve and his ability to confront the blight threatening the Whispering Woods and the elven legacy. As he descended from the peaks, the scrolls secured in his pack, Fela knew that the greatest challenge still lay ahead. The blight's source, a darkness fueled by forgotten dark gods, awaited his challenge. Armed with ancient wisdoms and a heart full of courage, he prepared to face whatever darkness lay before him, ready to defend the history and future of his people. As Fela made his way back towards the heart of the Whispering Woods, the signs of the blight became ever more apparent. A once vibrant canopy was now a mosaic of withering leaves, branches, once host to myriad chirping birds, hung silent and desolate. The forest air, normally crisp with the scent of pine and wildflowers, was now heavy with a miasma of decay. Upon reaching the ancient grove where Whisperroot resided, Fela found the old tree struggling against the creeping corruption that had begun to infest its roots. The bark, which had always held a healthy golden hue, now showed patches of grey and black. Whisperroot Fela called softly, placing his palm against the cool, rough bark. The tree's response was slow, a weary rustle through its leaves, like the sigh of an old man weary from a long fight. Fela, you have returned with the wisdoms. Whisperroot's voice echoed in his mind, tinged with fatigue yet underlined by a thread of hope. The blight grows stronger, fueled by the dark gods of old who seek to reclaim this land and rewrite our legacies. It draws its power from their forgotten shrine deep within the dark thicket.
Whisperroot then explained that the dark thicket was once a sacred place, a sanctuary where the dark gods were worshipped before they were banished from the annals of elven history. Now, it had become a source of corruption, distorting the very essence of the forest.
To cleanse the blight, you must confront it at its source, Whisperroot instructed. Use the wisdoms you have gathered to purify the shrine and sever the connection the dark gods have re-established with this world. Armed with the scrolls and his unwavering resolve, Fela set out towards the dark thicket. The journey was fraught with challenges. The closer he got to the shrine, the more the natural world around him seemed perverted by the blight. Plants twisted into grotesque forms. Animals with glowing red eyes watched from the shadows, and the very ground seemed to pulse with a malign intent. Upon arriving at the shrine, Fela found it overrun with thorns and vines that writhed like serpents. In the center, a dark altar pulsed with an eerie light. The air was thick with the stench of rot, and the silence was broken only by the sound of his own heart pounding like a drum in his ears. Drawing courage from the wisdom secured in his pack, Fela approached the altar. He unrolled the first scroll, the words of unity and strength glowing in the dim light. He recited the ancient incantations, and as he did, the thorny vines began to retract, hissing as if in pain. Next, he opened the scroll of resilience and hope, reading aloud the promises of renewal and the memories of past triumphs. Light began to pierce the darkness, cutting through the canopy in beams that seemed to cleanse the air. Finally, he unfurled the scroll of balance and harmony, chanting the language of the elements. The wind picked up, swirling around him as the earth beneath his feet trembled, and the nearby river roared louder, responding to the call of ancient magic. With each word uttered, the shrine's malignant glow dimmed, replaced by a soft, golden light that grew steadily. The oppressive weight of the blight lifted, and for the first time in months the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. As the final words of the scroll left his lips, the shrine crumbled, the dark altar breaking apart, its fragments consumed by a burst of radiant light. The shadows retreated, and the forest's true essence began to restore itself, vibrant and alive. Exhausted but elated, Fela sank to his knees, knowing he had faced and overcome the darkness. The blight was cleansed, the connection of the dark gods severed, and the whispering woods were safe once more. With a deep, contented breath, he looked around at the rejuvenating forest and felt a profound connection with the land, the legacy of his ancestors preserved for future generations. After his victorious encounter at the dark thicket, Fela returned to Whisperroot, the heart of the Whispering Woods. The journey back was markedly different from the one he had undertaken to confront the blight. Now the forest was alive with the sounds of returning animals, the rustle of healthy leaves, and the gentle flow of the Lyrian River, its waters clear and sparkling under the sun's benevolent gaze. As he approached the ancient grove, Fela noticed new sprouts pushing through the soil, a testament to the forest's resilience and rapid recovery. Whisperroot stood more majestic than ever, its branches reaching high, bathed in the golden light of dawn. The dark patches on its bark were fading, replaced by the lush green of new growth. Fela, brave heart of the woods, Whisperroot greeted, its voice now strong and clear. You have done what many believed impossible. You have cleansed the blight and restored balance to the forest. Gratitude and relief washed over Fela. He bowed before Whisperroot, feeling a deep spiritual connection to the forest and its ancient guardian. It was the wisdom you shared and the strength of our ancestors that guided me, he replied humbly. Whisperroot rustled, a sound like laughter echoing through its leaves. True, but it was your courage and resolve that brought these wisdoms to life. You have not only saved the Whispering Woods, but also ensured that the legacy of the elven gods will continue to guide us. In the days that followed, elves from all over Eldoria came to see the rejuvenated Whispering Woods. They walked through the grove, touched the healing bark of Whisperroot, and listened to the stories of Fela's bravery and the ancient magic he had reawakened. His journey became a symbol of hope and the enduring connection between the elves and their divine heritage. Fëlar found himself stepping into a role he had never imagined, guardian of the grove and a bridge between the ancient wisdom of the elven gods and the people of Eldoria. Under his watch, the Whispering Woods flourished, becoming a sanctuary not only for the elves but for all creatures seeking the peace and magic that now thrived under the canopy. Whisperroot, ever the sage, continued to share its knowledge with those who sought it, its whispers carrying through the woods, instilling wisdom and peace in the hearts of all who listened. Years passed, and Fëlar's story was woven into the rich tapestry of Eldorian lore, taught to young elves as a testament to the power of faith and the importance of preserving one's heritage. The Whispering Woods grew in legend, a place where future generations came to learn and draw strength from the stories of the past. Fëlar, now older and graced with the wisdom of many seasons, still roamed the paths of the forest, his connection to the land deepening with each passing year. He taught the young ones the language of the trees, the songs of the rivers, and the stories of the stones, ensuring that the bonds between the natural world and the elves remained unbreakable. As the sun set on a particularly poignant evening, Fëlar stood by Whisperroot, the golden hues of twilight casting long shadows across the grove. He looked up at the ancient tree, feeling a kinship that transcended time. "Thank you, Whisperroot, for trusting me with your wisdom," he said softly. "And thank you, Fëlar, for being the heart that hears," Whisperroot replied, its voice a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. Together they watched the stars emerge, the forest whispering around them, alive with the magic of ancient secrets and the quiet strength of a legacy preserved. Here in the Whispering Woods, the past and future spoke as one, and the song they sang was one of endless hope. The flight of the silver falcons. In the realm of Elaria, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering forests, the legend of the silver falcons soared as high as the creatures themselves. These magnificent birds, with plumage that shimmered like moonlit rivers and cries that pierced the stillness of the air, were revered by all who dwelt within the land. Once a year, during the festival of the Gleaming Wings, these falcons undertook a sacred flight over the territories of Elaria. It was said that the lands blessed by their shadows would prosper, basking in good fortune and abundant harvests for the year to come. Elenia, a young elf with auburn hair that cascaded like autumn leaves and eyes as deep and green as the forest canopy, lived on the edge of the Elvenwood, near the towering expanse of Mount Ilarion. Her life was intertwined with the rhythms of the natural world, her days filled with the exploration of hidden glens and ancient groves. On a morning tinged with the crisp hint of coming frost, Elenia ventured deeper into the forest than she had ever dared. The air was alive with the chatter of woodland creatures, and the ground was carpeted with the gold and crimson of fallen leaves. As she moved silently through the underbrush, a sudden, sharp cry of distress pierced the melody of the forest sounds. Drawn by the urgency of the call, Elenia hurried towards the source. Pushing through a dense thicket, she stumbled upon a clearing where the sunlight fell in dappled patterns on the forest floor. There, beneath the shelter of a great oak, lay a silver falcon. Its majestic wings were folded awkwardly, and one was clearly injured, marred by a jagged break that held the wing at a sorrowful angle. As Elenia approached, the falcon's keen eyes watched her, glinting with a mix of pain and wariness. Knowing the legends and the importance of the falcons to her people, she spoke softly, using words of the ancient tongue that were known to soothe and calm wild creatures. The falcon, understanding her intent if not her words, relaxed slightly, allowing her to come closer. Gently, Elenia examined the wing, her fingers skilled from years of tending to injured animals she'd found in the woods. The break was severe, and she knew that only the mystical herbs found on the slopes of Mount Ilarion could heal such a creature. Resolved to save the falcon, and perhaps ensure the prosperity of her land, she carefully wrapped the wing in a swath of her cloak, creating a makeshift sling to support it. Knowing that time was of the essence, Elenia prepared quickly for the journey. She gathered provisions, a small tent, and her most cherished possession, a flask of water from the sacred spring of Elis, said to bring luck to all who carried it. With the falcon now securely nestled in a basket she could carry on her back, Elenia set out towards Mount Ilarion. The mountain loomed in the distance, its peaks shrouded in clouds and mystery. The path was known to her, yet she had never ventured so far alone. Her heart was heavy with the responsibility she now shouldered, not just for the falcon named Silvaris in her mind, but for her village and the lands that stretched beyond her home. The terrain grew rougher as she approached the foothills of the mountain. The whispering woods gave way to steep slopes and rocky paths, where the wind sang through the crags and crevices with a mournful sound. Despite the challenges, Elenia's resolve did not waver. Each step took her higher into the realm of winds and spirits, closer to the healing herbs that could save Silvaris and fulfill the prophecy of the falcon's flight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the land, Elenia found a small cave where she could rest. She set up her camp, tending first to Silvaris, whose steady gaze spoke of a growing trust between them. That night, under the stars that seemed almost close enough to touch, Elenia pondered the journey ahead. She felt a profound connection to the ancient rhythms of the world and to the creature that now depended on her. In the silence of the mountains, with the wind whispering secrets only the bravest dared to learn, Elenia and Silvaris rested, gathering strength. The path ahead would be fraught with trials, but together they would face whatever the journey brought, bound by a newfound trust that was as delicate and profound as the flight of the silver falcons themselves. In the realm of Ilaria, nestled amidst rolling hills and whispering forests, the legend of the silver falcons soared as high as the creatures themselves. These magnificent birds, with plumage that shimmered like moonlit rivers and cries that pierced the stillness of the air, were revered by all who dwelt within the land. Once a year, during the Festival of the Gleaming Wings, these falcons undertook a sacred flight over the territories of Ilaria. It was said that the lands blessed by their shadows would prosper, basking in good fortune and abundant harvests for the year to come. Elenia, a young elf with auburn hair that cascaded like autumn leaves and eyes as deep and green as the forest canopy, lived on the edge of the Elvenwood, near the towering expanse of Mount Ilarion. Her life was intertwined with the rhythms of the natural world, her days filled with the exploration of hidden glens and ancient groves. On a morning tinged with the crisp hint of coming frost, Elenia ventured deeper into the forest than she had ever dared. The air was alive with the chatter of woodland creatures, and the ground was carpeted with the gold and crimson of fallen leaves. As she moved silently through the underbrush, a sudden, sharp cry of distress pierced the melody of the forest sounds. Drawn by the urgency of the call, Elenia hurried towards the source. Pushing through a dense thicket, she stumbled upon a clearing where the sunlight fell in dappled patterns on the forest floor. There, beneath the shelter of a great oak, lay a silver falcon. Its majestic wings were folded awkwardly, and one was clearly injured, marred by a jagged break that held the wing at a sorrowful angle. As Elenia approached, the falcon's keen eyes watched her, glinting with a mix of pain and wariness. Knowing the legends and the importance of the falcons to her people, she spoke softly, using words of the ancient tongue that were known to soothe and calm wild creatures. The falcon, understanding her intent if not her words, relaxed slightly, allowing her to come closer. Gently, Elenia examined the wing, her fingers skilled from years of tending to injured animals she'd found in the woods. The break was severe, and she knew that only the mystical herbs found on the slopes of Mount Ilarion could heal such a creature. Resolved to save the falcon and, perhaps, ensure the prosperity of her land, she carefully wrapped the wing in a swath of her cloak, creating a makeshift sling to support it. Knowing that time was of the essence, Elenia prepared quickly for the journey. She gathered provisions, a small tent, and her most cherished possession, a flask of water from the sacred spring of Elis, said to bring luck to all who carried it. With the falcon now securely nestled in a basket she could carry on her back, Elenia set out towards Mount Ilarion. The mountain loomed in the distance, its peaks shrouded in clouds and mystery. The path was known to her, yet she had never ventured so far alone. Her heart was heavy with the responsibility she now shouldered, not just for the falcon named Silvaris in her mind, but for her village and the lands that stretched beyond her home. The terrain grew rougher as she approached the foothills of the mountain. The whispering woods gave way to steep slopes and rocky paths, where the wind sang through the crags and crevices with a mournful sound. Despite the challenges, Elenia's resolve did not waver. Each step took her higher into the realm of winds and spirits, closer to the healing herbs that could save Silvaris and fulfill the prophecy of the falcon's flight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the land, Elenia found a small cave where she could rest, She set up her camp, tending first to Silvaris, whose steady gaze spoke of a growing trust between them. That night, under the stars that seemed almost close enough to touch, Elenia pondered the journey ahead. She felt a profound connection to the ancient rhythms of the world and to the creature that now depended on her. In the silence of the mountains, with the wind whispering secrets only the bravest dared to learn, Elenia and Silvaris rested, gathering strength. The path ahead would be fraught with trials, but together they would face whatever the journey brought, bound by a newfound trust that was as delicate and profound as the flight of the silver falcons themselves. As dawn broke, casting a soft pink hue over the rugged landscape, Elenia and Silvaris resumed their journey up the slopes of Mount Ilarion. The mountain, known for its mystical properties and treacherous paths, challenged Elenia's resolve with every step. The terrain grew steeper, and the air thinned, making each breath a labor. Silvaris, nestled securely in the basket, watched the world with keen, alert eyes, his presence, a silent encouragement to Elenia. As they ascended, the forest thinned, giving way to rockier vistas and sparse vegetation. It was here, amidst the stones and the occasional hardy bush clinging to life in the cracks, that Elenia encountered the first of many challenges the wild would present. A sudden rustling alerted her to a new presence, a mountain lynx, its coat blending almost perfectly with the grey stones. The lynx eyed Silvaris with predatory interest. Elenia stood still, her heart pounding in her chest. Recalling the teachings of her elders, she reached into her pack and slowly drew out a small piece of dried meat. Holding it out, she made a soft, soothing sound, a lullaby that her mother used to sing. The lynx, perhaps recognizing the non-threatening posture and captivated by the melody, shifted its gaze from Silvaris to Elenia. It approached cautiously, took the meat from her hand, and then with one last long look, it turned and vanished into the landscape. Breathing a sigh of relief, Elenia learned her first lesson of the mountain respect, and understanding could diffuse even the most dangerous encounters. She continued her ascent, her senses heightened, and her spirit buoyed by the successful encounter. The path led them next across a narrow ridge, where the wind howled like the spirits of the mountain were voicing their displeasure. Here Silvaris became restless, his feathers ruffling, as if responding to the unseen forces that whispered through the air. Elenia tightened her grip on the basket, her steps careful and measured. She whispered words of comfort to Silvaris, her voice barely audible over the wind. As they navigated the treacherous ridge, Elenia's foot dislodged a small stone, sending it clattering down the mountainside. The sound seemed to trigger a shift in the wind, and suddenly the howling ceased, replaced by a calm as sudden as it was unexpected. Elenia took a deep breath, feeling as though the mountain had tested her resolve and found it worthy. The day waned as they reached a high plateau, offering a panoramic view of the lands below. Here Elenia decided to make camp. As the sunset painted the sky in strokes of orange and purple, she reflected on the day's journey, Each step had taught her more about the mountain's wild nature and her own inner strength. She felt a deep connection to Silvaris, who had remained by her side, a silent guardian whose spirit seemed to blend with the wild magic of the mountain. That night, under the stars, and with the silhouette of Mount Ilarion looming above, Elenia felt a profound peace. She had faced the wilderness and its inhabitants, finding paths through danger with courage and respect. As she drifted into sleep, her dreams were filled with flying alongside Silvaris, their spirits intertwined, soaring over Ilaria, spreading fortune and prosperity. Elenia's journey to heal Silvaris was more than a quest for healing herbs. It was a journey of discovery, of understanding the delicate balance between respect and fear, and of learning that courage often lay in the quiet moments between heartbeats. With each lesson learned, she grew closer to the mystical heart of Mount Ilarion, where the fate of the Silver Falcons and perhaps her own would be decided. The next morning greeted Elenia with a brisk chill that seemed to seep into her bones. She stirred from her makeshift bed, the ground still warm from her body heat. Silvaris, now more alert and visibly stronger, shuffled in his basket, his eyes reflecting the early light that glinted off the frost-covered rocks. Elenia packed her camp swiftly, a routine that had become second nature over the past few days. Today she would need to reach the groves of healing nestled near the summit, where the mystical starlight blossoms grew. These rare herbs were said to possess healing properties strong enough to mend Silvaris's wing, ensuring he could join the critical flight that was mere days away. As they climbed, the vegetation thinned, replaced by rugged, wind-swept expanses where only the hardiest of mountain flowers clung to life. The path narrowed too, winding perilously close to sheer drops that plunged into shadowy depths below. With each step, Elenia felt the mountain's immense presence, as if it were a living entity watching her every move, testing her determination with its daunting landscape. Midway through the morning's journey, a dense fog rolled in, blanketing everything in a white shroud that reduced visibility to a mere few feet. Elenia paused, considering her options. Moving forward without clear sight was dangerous, yet waiting for the fog to lift could delay them past the time of the falcon's flight. Drawing a deep breath, she decided to trust in the bond she and Silvaris had forged, and the instincts that had safely guided them thus far. "We'll go slow, Silvaris," she whispered, adjusting the falcon's basket more securely against her back. "Guide me if you sense danger." Almost in response, Silvaris cooed softly, a sound that Elenia felt rather than heard through the dense fog. Guided by the falcon's acute senses, they pressed on. Elenia found her footing by feeling the ground carefully with her boots, her hands stretched out to catch any obstacles in her path. The fog began to lift as suddenly as it had appeared, revealing the sun hanging low in the sky, its light weak but warm. Before them lay the groves of healing, an oasis of green amid the barren upper reaches of Mount Ilarion. The grove was a lush pocket of life, vibrant with flowering herbs and thick, mossy undergrowth that seemed to pulse with ancient magic. Elenia wasted no time. She moved through the grove with reverence, her eyes searching for the telltale glow of the starlight blossoms. The flowers were said to bloom brightest in the presence of true need, and as Elenia approached, their soft light began to intensify, illuminating the grove with a silvery luminescence. With utmost care, she gathered the blossoms, placing each one gently into a pouch. Each flower seemed to hum with energy, their light mingling with the fading sunlight to cast ethereal shadows on the grove's leaf-strewn floor. Once she had enough, Elenia prepared a poultice right there in the heart of the grove. She crushed the blossoms, mixing them with a bit of the sacred spring water she carried. The mixture emitted a faint glow, and when she applied it to Silvaris's injured wing, the falcon let out a long, low sound that was half purr, half chirp, a sound of relief and healing. As the sun set, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson, Elenia watched Silvaris test his wing. The falcon flapped gently at first, then with increasing strength. The wing held and the bird's natural grace returned. With her heart swelling with hope and pride, Elenia knew they had to make the descent as soon as possible. The flight of the silver falcons was near, and Silvaris had to join his kin in the sacred ritual that promised prosperity for the land. That night, under the stars and with a healed Silvaris by her side, Elenia felt a profound connection not just to the falcon, but to all of Ilaria. Tomorrow they would descend Mount Ilarion, returning to the Elvenwood just in time for the Festival of the Gleaming Wings. Her journey, filled with challenges and lessons, was nearing its end, but the bonds and insights gained would last a lifetime. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of rose and lavender, Elenia and Silvaris began their descent from Mount Ilarion. The air was crisp, filled with the promise of a new day, and the mountain seemed to stand sentinel over their journey, its peaks catching the early light. The path down the mountain was less arduous than the ascent, buoyed as they were by the success of their mission. Silvaris, fully healed and more vibrant than ever, seemed eager, his sharp eyes scanning the skies, his body tense with anticipation. Elenia, too, felt a mix of excitement and a poignant sense of closure as they neared the end of their journey. As they emerged from the mountain's shadow and entered the lush canopy of the Elvenwood, the sounds of the forest welcomed them, a chorus of birds, the whisper of leaves, and the distant murmur of the river. The Festival of the Gleaming Wings was to begin today, and the air was thick with the scents of blooming flowers and fresh pine, mingled with the smoke of fires being kindled for the evening celebrations. Upon reaching her village, Elenia was met with joy and relief. Her family and friends, who had feared for her safety, now celebrated her return and the return of Silvaris, whose importance to the festival was unmatched. News of her successful quest spread quickly, and soon the entire village was abuzz with preparations for the festival. As the day waned into evening, the villagers gathered in the clearing where the festival was held annually. Lanterns hung from the trees, casting a soft glow over the faces of the elves who, dressed in their finest, came to witness the flight of the silver falcons. Elenia stood at the edge of the clearing, Silvaris perched proudly on her arm, his silver feathers gleaming under the lantern light. The bond between them was palpable, a connection forged through adversity and trust, a testament to the journey they had shared. As the last light of the sun vanished behind the horizon, the falcons began to arrive, their silvery forms slicing through the twilight sky. One by one, they landed in the clearing, greeted by the awed murmurs of the crowd. When Silvaris took flight, joining his kin in the sacred dance of the falcons, a cheer rose from the villagers. The falcons soared above, their flight a mesmerizing display of grace and beauty. As they passed over the land, their shadows cast a spell of prosperity and promise over Ilaria. Elenia watched, her heart full, as Silvaris performed a particularly breathtaking spiral, his healed wings strong and sure. When the falcons finally descended, signaling the end of their flight, the festival erupted into celebrations. Music played, dancers twirled, and the air was filled with the laughter and joy of a people blessed by the falcon's promise. Late into the night, as the fires burned down to glowing embers and the dancers grew weary, Elenia found a quiet moment under the canopy of an ancient oak. Silvaris, ever her companion, settled beside her, his head tucked under his wing. Reflecting on their journey, Elenia felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had set out to save a falcon, but had returned with so much more: a deeper understanding of the natural world, a strengthened bond with her community, and a friendship that transcended the boundaries between species. As the stars twinkled above, mirroring the sparkle of Silvaris's feathers, Elenia made a silent vow to protect and cherish the wild beauty of Ilaria, inspired by the bravery and spirit of the silver falcons. Her adventure had ended, but the stories of her journey would be told for generations, inspiring others to listen to the call of the wild and to respond with courage and compassion. In the quiet of the night, with the soft sounds of the forest around her, Elenia felt at peace, a place in the tapestry of Ilaria secured, her story intertwined with that of the silver falcons, forever a part of her land's legend. Years passed since the remarkable journey of Elenia and Silvaris, and the tale of their adventure continued to resonate throughout Ilaria. Elenia, now a respected member of her community, dedicated herself to preserving the natural wonders of their land and sharing the wisdom she had gained from her time with Silvaris. The Festival of the Gleaming Wings had grown over the years, becoming a symbol of unity and prosperity for all of Ilaria. Each year, as the silver falcons took to the skies, Elenia stood among her people, watching with pride and joy as Silvaris joined his brethren in their sacred flight. His presence in the skies served as a reminder of the bond between nature and the elves, a bond that was both sacred and essential. Elenia often visited the foothills of Mount Hilarion, the place where she and Silvaris had faced many challenges and had grown together. These visits were a time for reflection and connection, a chance for her to feel close to the wild magic that had healed her feathered friend and had taught her so much about courage and trust. As an elder, Elenia took it upon herself to teach the young elves about the importance of coexisting with all creatures of the forest. She recounted her adventures, emphasizing the lessons she learned about empathy, respect, and understanding. Her stories were not just entertaining, they were educational, imbued with the wisdom of someone who had experienced firsthand the deep connections that could form between different species. Silvaris, for his part, became a legend in his own right. Not only was he a beacon of the festival each year, but he was also a living testament to the power of healing and the importance of the natural world. His bond with Elenia did not go unnoticed, and it inspired many to view the creatures of Ilaria not as mere animals but as partners and teachers. Together, Elenia and Silvaris explored new parts of Ilaria, always respectful of the balance of nature. On these journeys they discovered several rare herbs and learned new songs of the wind and water, which Elenia shared with her community. These discoveries helped to further enhance the lives of the Ilarians, bringing new medicines and knowledge that improved their harmony with the land. Elenia's legacy, fostered by her journey with Silvaris, was one of harmony between civilization and nature. Under her guidance, the people of Ilaria learned to tread lightly on the earth, to listen more intently to the whispers of the woods, and to observe the flights of the falcons with a deeper appreciation. In her twilight years, Elenia wrote a series of scrolls detailing her journey, the knowledge of the healing herbs, and the songs of the elements. These scrolls were kept in the great library of Ilaria, available to all who wished to learn from her experiences. They served as a guide for future generations, ensuring that the lessons of the past were not forgotten. As the years turned, Elenia remained a figure of wisdom and strength in her community, her life a tapestry woven with threads of adventure, discovery, and deep respect for the world around her. And each year, as the silver falcons soared above, Elenia's heart soared with them, forever bound to the magnificent creatures that had changed her life and brought fortune to her land.